Hello, everyone, and welcome to the quarterfinals of the StarCityGames.com Season 3 Invitational here from Atlanta, part of the SCG Tour, and brought to you by the wonderful people over at Ultimate Guard. Cedric Phillips and Patrick Sullivan, we are here in the booth. Nick Miller is down in the feature match area as we prepare to watch Jacob Baugh and Joe Bernal play here in the quarterfinals. So who's going to move on to the semifinals here as Naya Aetherworks will play against Black Green Delirium. For Baugh, it's been a very, very impressive weekend. He has qualified himself for the Players' Championship by making the top 8 of this tournament. For Bernal, a player who normally we see vending with Hot Sauce Games, as you can see the shirt, he can play some Magic still too, that's for sure. Well,
I don't know if he's going to be able to play some Magic on 3 cards, which I believe is what he's mulliganing to right now to start it off.
That's not many of those.
This puts a ton of pressure here for him to win game number 2.
Yes.
I think even with the sideboard being the way that it is, asking him to pick up 3 straight post-board games, 2 of which he'll be on the draw for, is just asking too much. If he can pick up game number 2, let's assume he loses this one. Not a 0%er, but the matchup's already really bad. He's on 3 cards.
If
he can pick up game number 2 on the play, I think that gives him a puncher's chance.
Well, we're underway here in our quarterfinals. So Bernal just got an Evolving Wilds for Jacob. He started off with a game trail. Again, because Joe is on 3 cards, this is going to quite clearly be an uphill climb for him. An Ether Hub will bring along an energy here for Jacob. And now we will see our first spell of the match. It is a Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. Jacob will go up to 4 energy and 23 life. Bernal will sacrifice the Evolving Wild to get himself a basic forest, and we'll see his second turn here in just a moment. To say that things will have to go well here for Joe Bernal is kind of the understatement of the century.
Well,
for this game.
Again, already in a huge hole, just 60 cards to 60 cards. And now this.
Blooming Marsh is a second land, so he's got 2 mana to work with. That's a step in the right direction. We go back over to Baugh.
And keep in mind, game 1, I mean, we're looking at a deck list here with 4 Dead Weight, 4 Murder, 4 Grasp of Darkness, and 4 Liliana Last Hope. And it's not like his deck is naturally very synergistic with Liliana, so that's also kind of another removal spell.
Baugh's going to play in a Tune with Aether, get 2 energy, search for a basic land, play an Evolving Wilds as well. A little shortcutting here between the 2 players. So we know that Jacob will be searching for a land to put in his hand and a land from Evolving Wilds to put on the battlefield tapped. The Mountain will come in tapped from the Evolving Wilds, and we'll see which basic Jacob wants to search up here. And more importantly, we're going to find out here soon enough if he actually just has a Marvel in hand.
Yeah, put Bernal out of his misery a little bit early here.
Yeah, that could be the goal. Joe going to draw. Picked up an Ishkana. Here's a Tireless Tracker. And Joe will simply pass the turn back over to Jacob. Jacob will finish shuffling up. Joe will cut his deck. And we know that Jacob has a Plains in his hand. He will draw a card. He will add another hub. Well, you might as well make it quick.
Yes.
Here with a Marvel. Jacob will pass the turn back over to Bernal. Bernal will draw a card. He will get a clue from the tracker. He will sacrifice the clue to draw a card, put a counter on the tracker. I'm not sure there will be an attack here, but I almost feel like you have to attack because you just have to get lucky.
Yeah, you can't. If there's something good in the top anyway, you're kind of dead. So
Jacob opting to wait, which I find a little bit interesting. But he's certainly not he's at 23. He's not in a rush.
Yep.
Hub going to bring along another energy here. This will be a Harness Lightning. That'll take care of the tracker. And Jacob will simply pass the turn back over to Bernal. I will say, I think that one of the reasons Jacob is waiting in this situation, as Bernal is going to play, I believe, an Ishkana, is let's say that Jacob was to hit an Ishkana of his own, it wouldn't have Delirium. Now it would. He has land, sorcery, artifact, and instant. And again, he's at 23, so now he can do this and say, if I hit Ishkana, it's not just a 3/5. It's a 3/5 and a whole bunch more.
And he's under no direct, there's no pressure here, so yep, and there you go, paid off.
I think a lot of players' instinct there would be, I have 6 energy, I have a Marvel, let's spin the wheel, see what happens. But again, no pressure, he's at 23, and there's really nothing to be concerned about.
Yeah, it's not like he really needs to find Emrakul this exact moment. He's got a lot of time to work with.
He still also has 5 energy, and that's really a lot of the appeal of this deck. The energy is just flowing through this deck. It's not hard at all.
Yeah, because even in your misses on the Aetherworks Marvel, well, you know, you have Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot as a backup hit, which basically just runs it back again. So it's really hard to run out of energy and miss on your big drops.
Ishkana's going to come a block in here in just a moment. Now, we'll take a look at Aetherworks Marvel here very quickly, and the reason for that, most of you are familiar, of course, but one of the things that does happen with the Marvel is the ability to grant energy once something does die. So Baugh's going to gain a little bit of energy here from Harness Lightning. And as we take a look at the powerful artifact and the Vessel of Nascency he plays, when a permanent you control is put into the graveyard, you get energy as well. So if one of those spider tokens were to die, or the Ishkana itself, and when you sacrifice a vessel.
Exactly, and that spot Baugh says, you know, if one of the spiders dies, that's great. That's another Marvel trigger, and if he blocks the Ishkana, then I get to use Harness Lightning to finish off his Ishkana. On top of that, I get an energy left over. That puts me up to 6, so I can activate the Marvel again.
It was Liliana minus. It was a miss there for Bernal. I'm not entirely sure what he was looking for, but he didn't find it, as Jacob Baugh is going to win game number 1 here over Joe Bernal very quickly. Nia Aetherworks up a game here over Black-Green Delirium. You saw both players reach for their sideboards and say, we're not there yet, because the first 2 games are pre-sideboard, and the next 3 will have their 15-card edition. So that game, and we feel the first pre-sideboard games are going to be difficult, obviously much harder when you're on 3 cards.
Exactly. So this is, again, I think this is a really critical one for Bernal. It's going to be very hard for him to win 3 in a row, 2 on the draw. If he can steal one here, maybe Baugh mulligans, maybe Bernal just gets a really explosive draw that his deck is capable of. I think that would be huge for him. It turns this into a match, but going down 0-2 here is going to be really hard for Bernal to come back.
These 2 will shuffle, so we'll talk about the StarCityGames.com weekly sale, where for just a little bit more time, you can get 15% off of a lot of non-English cards.
Right, you can go to the website right now. Every week we come out with a new sale. It starts on Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, so make sure to be checking back to the website once a week and see what the new sale is. Right now, for a limited time, again, it ends Monday at 10:59 a.m. Eastern time. You can get 15% off thousands of non-English cards.
We'll have a new sale for you at 11 a.m. on Monday, East Coast time, StarCityGames.com. Check out what we got on sale for you guys as we work our way into the holiday season here. Christmas is going to be here before you know it, and then the New Year will be here, and then we'll have Grand Prix Louisville, and then we'll have our first event of the year in in Columbus, pardon me. And it'll be you and I doing a little Aether Revolt pre-release, or release week.
That'll be very exciting.
Yeah. Now, you know, a lot of people have their thoughts and opinions on this format. Emrakul's too powerful and Marvel's too powerful. You have to imagine there'll be some interesting cards coming down the pipeline there from Aether Revolt.
Yeah, and I think when people are talking about too powerful, I think they mean the experience is too frustrating.
Sure.
I do not think, I mean, Marvel maybe is the best deck in the format, or maybe is the best deck in the format for this particular weekend or this moment in time. It doesn't feel like the deck is just fundamentally egregious to me on raw power level, but play pattern wise, it can feel kind of lame. And getting bind slavered frequently is not a fun experience.
I just remember kind of leading into the Pro Tour, a lot of people were saying, oh, come on, what's the deal with Smuggler's Copter? This card's way too good, so it's over the line. And that card is good, no doubt about it. But, you know, we take a look at our top 8 here, I think 4 copies.
Smuggler's Copter is at least good gameplay. It's
yeah.
Tactical, instance matter, there's opportunities for bluffing.
We're going to see Joe and Jacob take a mulligan here. I think we're going to see this a lot from Joe in game 1 because he has 4 murders, 4 deadweight, 4 grasp of darkness. He's just got a lot of misses.
And even the way that this matchup is and the way that his deck is constructed, I think Ishkana is a miss too. Baugh can really overpower him on the battlefield. Bernal doesn't get to Delirium that reliably unless he's hitting with his Grimflayer. And we saw that game, he was able to play it on 5, but it was just a 3/5. Now, a function of that is he was on 3 cards, and it's hard to get to Delirium with 3 cards, but he's got a lot of dead stuff here. I think the Grimflayers, the Mind Racked Evens, the Sylvan Advocates, the Tireless Trackers, he needs to be redundant on those kind of cards. Those are the cards I think give him a shot to win one of the pre-boarded games.
Well, these players will take a look at 6 cards here in just a moment. Do have another match here for you guys in Chris Anderson. He's playing against Adam Snook right now. That's Teamer Aetherworks versus a very unique, aggressive build of black-green. It's not Delirium so much, but it is just kind of a black-green aggro deck. That Snook has found a way to make to the top 8 here. Though Chris Anderson has won game number 1 already, because sometimes Marvel doesn't take long to Marvel.
Nope. And Anderson with the benefit of the play, which I think is a tipping point for that matchup.
Yeah. I am inclined to agree. Both players will take a look at 6 here. Joe's happy on 6. That's still a lot more than 3. Joe just waiting to see if he can scry or not just yet.
Yeah. All mulligans get resolved, then scrying occurs.
I'm with you in your analysis of this game for Joe. If he's going to pull this off,
Starts here.
He's got to win this game.
Yep.
He has to. He's on the play. He's got to draw mostly creatures, not much removal. You know, for me, it's going to involve the games that he wins. It's going to involve one of his 2 drops with Sylvan Advocate or Grim Flayer, and it's got to involve Mind Rack Demon.
Yep.
Joe's going to leave it on top. For Jacob, he'll do the same. Here we go. It's a swamp there for Bernal. For Baugh, he left it on top. Didn't get a great look at it. He will play a forest, and now there's an Attune with Aether. 2 energy here for Jacob. Working his way up to 6. We'll see what land he wants to search for. The interesting thing about Jacob's deck, not a lot of lands, but he does have a lot of Attune with Aethers and traverse the Uvenwald. So in a weird roundabout way, he's got plenty of lands.
And and with Aetherworks Marvel in the deck, you kind of do want to be cutting lands for spells anyway, just to have more hits in the deck.
Here's a Baugh search up a mountain there with Attune with Aether. For Joe Bernal, again, steps in the right direction. He's got to have a 2-drop. This is probably his best one.
Definitely. This gives him some selection. It allows him to get Delirium, get a clock, and controlling his draw is also so important for him in this matchup because he's got so many bad cards. Being able to mill over those murders, those dead weights, the grasps, that's huge for Bernal.
Now, I would be shocked if this lives.
This thing's dead. This is dead for sure.
Yeah, it better be dead.
This is Bernal's game right here.
You played a creature? Nope.
Yeah, that thing's dead.
Murder will take care of that. Now Grimflayer is going to connect.
This is the game I showed up for.
Yeah.
If you had a creature, all right, that thing is dead.
Can you imagine if he couldn't have killed that?
It's so bad. It's really embarrassing.
Didn't draw one of his 4 deadweights, murders, or grasp of darkness.
Yeah.
Would have been really strange.
Even Liliana would have played there.
Yeah, totally true.
It's like his whole deck works.
Joe going to take a look at the top couple of cards now with Grim Flayer. A card we can also take a look at. For Flayer, it's a very important card for black-green Delirium builds and all black-green decks. Just to kind of control your draw step, build into a 4/4, it tramples, all that good stuff. When it deals combat damage to a player, you look at the top 3 cards of your library. You can put any number of them into your graveyard and the rest back on top of your library in any order. Looks like Joe turns over all of them. And now we go back over to Baugh, who will draw.
Interesting, he decided not keep a tireless tracker there. Maybe putting a premium on getting to Delirium ahead of schedule. It's the only creature in the graveyard now.
There's a hub. Jacob will play a Vessel past the turn back. We're going to go over to Joe Bernal. He'll draw a card.
I mean, putting a tireless tracker in the graveyard is a pretty loud statement there because it means he has to take a random draw, and he has a lot of bad random draws. I would be a little bit risk adverse in Bernal's spot with the Grimflayer because I want to leave it something somewhat productive on the top of the deck. So he must either not really want a tireless tracker or be desperate enough to get to Delirium ahead of schedule that he was willing to get rid of it.
Yeah, it feels like the latter to me because that gives him a creature into the graveyard. He's got creature land and instant now.
Right.
So
it's a big cost though.
Yeah.
If you get rid of a tireless tracker and then you draw a dead weight, it's really painful.
Aptly named. that's what it is. Traverse the Uvenwald is going to go into the graveyard. Joe's going to try to figure out what he wants to do with the other 2. This will give him Delirium now.
Right.
This would be a great turn to have Mind Rack Demon. It does not appear as though he has it. He will play a Grimflayer, a Hissing Quagmire, and pass the turn back. But what he does have is 2 4/4s. Now, Jacob will sacrifice the Vessel of Nascency. In order to do that, he needs to use an energy. So we'll take a look at the top handful of cards here. Nahiri, Harness Lightning, Aether Hub, and Game Trail. We'll see what he wants to select. Remember, Baugh is one of the only players here with Nahiri in his deck. It's great in the mirror. It's just okay in matchups like this.
Yep. And Bernal's fairly good at pressuring Planeswalkers here. It can just be a removal spell in the worst case scenario, although that's a lot of mana to pay right now.
Hub is the selection. Now we go over to Baugh. Looks like he may have picked up another copy of Harness Lightning. There's Hub up to 5 energy. Remember, the thing about Aetherworks Marvel decks, in some matchups, it's really important that you have Marvel on 4. And against some draws, it's very important that you have Marvel on 4. Joe is pressuring enough that I think Jacob in this sort of game, he needs to have Marvel soon.
Well, this is the shape of the game that Bernal can win, where he's got some aggression, he's got some agency over his draw step, so he's not flooding out with removal spells. Boss stumbling a little bit here.
Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot there from Jacob is going to bring him up to 19. He's got 8 energy now, and now we're going to go over to Bernal. Remember, Bernal played a Hissing Quagmire as his land last turn, so he does have a creature land that if he wants to fire that up, he can. For now, he's going to sacrifice an Evolving Wilds. He'll go grab himself a basic Swamp. We'll see what comes next here for the Black-Green Delirium player. He's looking at Liliana and Grimflayer in hand. He's going to start by attacking with the 2 Grimflayers. A Harness Lightning is going to take care of one of them. So at the end of the day, Jacob will lose an energy. He's going to fall down to 7 energy, and I believe 1 Grimflayer will connect now.
But even with Bernal having the start that he's had, I mean, Baugh's got a lot of time to work with here.
Well, in Jacob's deck, and in most Marvel decks that have red, a Harness Lightning is basically Terminate.
Yep.
You know? Here's another Grimflayer. It's not that tough. The draw is a marvel.
Well, that seems like a fine spot.
Yeah.
To do this.
Yep. The question is, does he want to activate now or wait? We saw in the last game, he waited. I think he's already got Delirium now, so he says, you know what, time to cash it in. Let's take a look at the top 6. Obviously some big hits here for Jacob Baugh that are available.
All right, good news for Bernal if he's thumbing around cards in his hand.
Yep. I see at least Nahiri.
Nahiri is not a huge prize here. But, you know, keep in mind, Baugh already with an energy. He's got the Puddle Knot in play, which represents 4 more. It's not hard for him to go again.
Yeah, and you know, truth be told, I don't really hate Nahiri in this spot. Reason being, takes care of Grimflayer. The other Grimflayer is almost forced to kill Nahiri now.
Correct.
And if it does that, that's an energy.
Right, and then you have 4 from the Puzzle Knot next turn.
Spin it again.
So right back in it. Right back in the thick of things. This is really painful for Bernal because this looked like a winning recipe. No Marvel on 4 from the other side of the battlefield. Bunch of Grimflayers, which is a lot of pressure and control over the draw step. But Baugh still at 15. He's got so much life to work with here.
It's tough. It's really tough. He's going to be coming in here soon, most likely. Yeah, the reason you see Joe give pause is I'm forced to do this. This stinks.
There's an argument there that he can go ahead and just force Baugh to use the Nahiri to kill the Grimflayer the next turn, but it's just too bad. He's got to take care of it. Can't lose the Grimflayer there for essentially nothing.
Ishkana, going to come down here for Bernal. Brings 3 spiders along.
We're at least in the spot here where if Baugh bricks a second time, we've got a game.
He'll get 4 more energy and 3 life. He's up to 18. Now he's out of energy. Let's see how he does. Has he found an Emrakul this time? I'm not sure he found anything great. This is kind of what it takes.
Yep. Needs a second whiff. He might need a third whiff, honestly. But Bernal's got to be pretty stoked. I mean, if Baugh is not slamming an Emrakul and Ishkan into play, it means it's another brick. But even green Puzzle Knot is not a bad hit here. That one is still fine.
You're in love with green Puzzle Knot. Your favorite card.
Oh, I hate that thing. It's pretty good against the decks I like to play.
That's true.
It's also, that's the card that sticks out to me as R&D must have really wanted Aetherworks Marvel to be a thing. To have a card that just lets you go 2, 3, 4 with just no work and cushions your life total, they must have really wanted this to happen.
Jacob is going to select Attune with Ether. It's going to give him 2 energy. It's going to allow him to search for a land. I think part of the reason he's searching for a land is because he has Ishkana in hand. He needs to try to get there. Now he's going to take a pretty big punch in the face next turn. And now he'll play a Vessel of Nascency and simply pass the turn back. So for Joe, he can attack here for 4, 7, 10, potentially 12 if he wants to fire up the Quagmire, bring Baugh down to 6. That's pretty good.
Yep. And the Grimflayer hit means he gets some control over his draw step. And we're hitting a point where even drawing a Murder or a Grasp isn't necessarily that bad for Bernal if Baugh has to stabilize with, Ishkana next turn.
Bernal's draw was Dead Weight. Here's Liliana. It will start by going down to 1. Dead Weight and Dead Weight into the graveyard. Flare back to the hand. Recast. That's a 4/4. And now we're going to see some attacking here in just a moment, I imagine. We do. 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, and a Flare trigger. Mind Rack Demon among those cards. As Baugh falls down to 8. Looking difficult now for our Aetherworks Marvel player.
Yeah, required 2 bricks, and it might require a 3rd one.
Well, I'm not even sure if he's going to be able to spin again here with only 2 energy.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be Ishkana first, get out of combat next turn. And because even just casting Emrakul may not be good enough. He's got nothing else going on right now.
I think Emrakul stinks.
So I think he's got to go Ishkana first, settle the game down a little bit, then Emrakul has the opportunity to get good. In the creature matchups, you want the battlefield to be a little bit sticky before you play Emrakul, so you get a lot out of the Mindslaver attack as well.
Here is Ishkana, and Baugh will pass the turn back over to Bernal.
And if we know anything about Bernal's deck, those spiders are hosed.
Well,
he is gonna kill those spiders.
Fear the dead weight's already in the graveyard, unfortunately. I believe he kept Mind Rack Demon on top, but he's got a dead weight in hand.
Yep.
And all kidding aside, it takes care of a spider.
Yep.
Bernal going to try to lay out, okay, how much damage can I get through? What are the blocks going to be? Remember, any spiders or if Ishkana dies, that's energy for the Marvel.
Yeah, and he's got 4 spiders in play and at 2 energy, so that represents a Marvel spin.
Gotta be a little careful. You're breathing heavy, just so you know. Dead weight will take care of a spider.
Like I said, hosed.
Yeah, it's sure, let's go with hosed. Let's go with hosed. Remember, these Grimflayers trample. That's very real right now. Joe's seeing if he can attack here for lethal. While Joe figures that out, we can let you know that Adam Snook did win game number 2 against Chris Anderson, so they head to game number 3 tied up and making sideboard additions now.
I don't think he has. Well, if he fires up the Quagmire, let's look at this. And Joe's doing the same thing. It looks like Ishkana on a Grimflayer, Spider on the Ishkana, and Spider on the chumping either the Quagmire or Okay, yep. I think this might get him to 8.
Yeah, with the trample from the Flares and the addition of Liliana.
I think he needed 1 point, and I think the Liliana is the 1 point.
And because right now Ishkana has 4 toughness.
No, it's neutral with the Grim Flare, so he can chump, and take 7 here.
Okay.
If I'm looking at the math correctly.
If I'm looking at it correctly, that's what I see
The
too.
Ishkana itself absorbs all 4 damage from the Grim Flare, chumps the Ishkana, chumps a 2-power creature, or you can chump the Grim Flare, it's the same thing, and then 7 damage comes across.
I think more importantly here, Baugh's not making any headway in actually getting anything off of Bernal's board.
Right, these are all chumps. Before, he might have had a block where he could maybe get one of the Grim Flares off the battlefield and so forth. But yeah, now he's just at 1, and again, he's in a spot where Emrakul is not a game-stabilizing play. He gets to, run 1 Grim Flare, but Bernal is capable of going much wider around that.
Mm-hmm. Now Marvel can be spun. Has access to 6 energy. Curious to see if Baugh wants to spend it on the end of Bernal's turn or not, as Bernal is resolving his Grim Flare trigger.
It's interesting because at this point, Baugh kind of needs another Ishkana before Emrakul enters the equation again.
All right, spin it to win it. I think Ishkana is step 1 here. Chandra? Not all that impressive. Maybe I'm wrong. And he's at 1.
I believe Baugh had an Ishkana in hand already, so I think he was potentially looking for Emrakul. You can see a little bit of frustration here for Baugh. 3 spins. Not that Emrakul would have necessarily been a game-winning play at every stage here, but certainly would have gone a long way. And if the game's about brawling on the battlefield with removal spells and who can win the Ishkana fights, I think Bernal gets the better of that more often than not.
I think I got to agree with that. Now here's Chandra. Now we're going to go back over to Jacob. He'll draw Game Trail. I just don't think there's a way he can stabilize now. There's no, Day of Judgment, Supreme Verdict, Wrath of God type effect in his deck.
Well, he's got to do. It's very challenging. I mean, the problem right now is that the Grim Flayers have trample, and even if he has Ishkana, that really complicates the types of blocks he's able to make and stay alive. The Chandra does a little bit of work here because the Chandra can kill one of the Grim Flayers, but there's still a second one.
And he has no, obviously, life to play with.
Yes.
One Spider gets through, Hissing Quagmire gets through, what have you. Yep,
right.
And he is beat. So, Joe Bernal had to win game number 2 here, in our opinion, and he did just that. Black Green Delirium Knight, Aetherworks going to game 3.
And you can see the nod of the head there for Bernal. He knows he's in this thing now.
Yep.
Again, if he loses both the pre-boarded games, I think it's very, very tough for him to win. But he knows now he gets to cut a lot of this bad removal, and he has a real sideboard here.
Well, let's go to the sideboard here, and we're going to start with Jacob Baugh, who's got 3 Kozilek's Return, 3 Tireless Tracker, a World Breaker, a Sigarda Heron's Grace, 3 tiers of Valakut, 2 Natural State, a Nissa Vital Force, and an Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger.
Well, he may want some diversity and redundancy of threats since Bernal is bringing in so much discard. I don't know if he wants to go to things like Tireless Tracker because of the amount of removal that Bernal has, but I think the Nissa, the Ulamog, the Tireless Trackers, the Kozilek's Returns, I think are all potentially in play here.
Other side of things here for Joe Bernal. You said he's got a pretty good sideboard. It looks to be that way. 3 Transgress the Mind, 2 Pick the Brain, 3 Natural State, 2 Appetite for the Unnatural, 3 Ruinous Path, and 2 Kalidas, Trader of Get.
I definitely want the discard spells, and you can talk me into some of the disenchant effects, though I wouldn't want the whole suite of them. Really, a lot of this is a function of how bad does Bernal think his removal is. If he wants to get rid of all the dead weights and all the Grass Darkness and some number of murders, then he has to go pretty deep into this sort of plan. But if he thinks that some of his removal is still operational, then he doesn't have to bring in some of the more narrow disenchants.
Those are the options there for both players. They're going to shuffle and sideboard up. Probably shouldn't take too long, as I know both players tested this matchup a lot last night to get ready to try to move on to the semifinals. But while they do sideboard, we will talk about Game Night, very popular promotion. We want to thank everyone who has played in it to allow us to make cool stuff here like Fintuition.
You can head over to go.starcitygames.com/GameNight to find more information. Every month, Star City Games comes out with new pins and tokens that we send to the stores that are signed up for Game Night. Stores can then run Game Night anytime they want, any day of the week, any format, just to get players in the store on a regular basis for some fun and friendly Magic. This is the December kit. You're paying for it now. It's Fintuition. A couple more kits coming down the pipeline here in Squeaky Cheeky Acorn Breaker.
Nailed
Got
it.
that fairly smoothly the first time around. Seeing it blind tripped me up a little bit, but that's the January kit. February kit, also the Corgi Firewalker. Again, go.starcitygames.com/GameNight. Find the Game Night closest to you stores. If you would like to get signed up for Game Night, contact your Star City Games in-store play representative.
We prepare here for game number 3. Players are shuffling it up, so we'll talk a little bit more about Jacob Baugh, who is now headed to our Players' Championship. Is a 27-year-old from Waterloo, Illinois. And you know, you've said it many times, and I think I agree with you. A player who has 11 open top 8s, 2 open wins, one of which came earlier this year. He's not the biggest personality on the SCG Tour. You know, he's not your Tom Rosses, Todd Andersons, Brad Nelsons, Jerry Thompsons of the world. He's just a good Magic player who worked his tail off, and now he's playing in the end-of-year tournament.
Yeah, congratulations to him again. We're going to have to update the Invitational Top 8s bracket here, or slide here after this is over, as this is his first one. Congratulations to him on that as well. And just a gamer, likes to game at all the events he can reasonably get to, and has put together quite a 2016.
Yeah, it's been interesting. You know, we see some career arcs here on the SCG Tour because we've been doing this for a little over 4 years now, which is frightening. But you know, I remember watching Ross Merriam go from pretty good player to household name. And I think that's what we're starting to see with Jacob.
Yep.
Pretty good player that we see at SCG Tour events when we came to Chicago and Indy and that around that area. And now we see him at most of our tournaments. And he's always right there for top 8 contention.
Yep. We have had the privilege of watching players like Ross Merriam, Todd Anderson, Brian Bronduin go from, you know, PTQ grinder, Grand Prix participant, Open Series, top 8 competitor to, you know, Pro Tour staple, Grand Prix champion, world champion. It's great to see that kind of arc over time. And Baugh is on what feels like kind of the initial steps of a similar arc.
I think he's made good deck choices for most of the year. Hasn't taken a ton of risks. And I think that I'm a huge fan of his standard deck this weekend.
Yep.
I think in regards to what the metagame looks like and what the predictions were going to be and just how this deck kind of plays, I really, really like his selection. And I think that if he's able to get by Joe here, he's got some mirrors on the way most likely. And I think that's exactly where he wants to be.
Yes.
Now, go ahead.
Nahiri potentially a huge engine. Oh,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
A big deal.
Again, worth noting on the other side, if we have time to jump that way, Chris Anderson, Adam Snook, they are playing. They are in game number 3. They are tied up 1-1. And if we have time to jump over there, we certainly will. These players are tied 1-1 as well. For Joe, it was so important to win that second game.
Yes.
So important.
Being down 0-2 in a tough matchup puts you in a spot where any game you lose obviously ends the match. Additionally, if you win game 3, it means you're on the draw for games 4 and 5 should they happen. And that's asking a lot, even if it's a good matchup. Winning 3 games in a row, 2 of them on the draw, even if you're above 50% is a challenge. When you're potentially south of 50%, it's very, very unlikely. But now, a 3-game set, Bernal gets to get the play for, you know, at least one of the games, unless he's just able to win on the draw the whole way through. And he's got to feel a lot better about his chances. And you can see it in his body language and the look on his face after he got game number 2. I think he would probably say the same thing. If I'm able to split the pre-boarded games, I've got a real shot to take this match. But if I'm down 0-2, it's going to be really hard.
Yeah. He can at least say, I'm in this thing. And I think that's important. I can get a little, not all, but some of the bad cards out. Because they can't get all of the murders, deadweights, and grasp of darkness out. And I'm not entirely sure he would want to. But he's saying, I can get some of these cards out now for discard and artifact removal. And we can play a little bit here.
Yep.
But you saw just how important it is to have Grim Flayer to start.
It's the key card of the matchup. It's his pressure. It's his selection. The selection probably matters a little bit less in the post-board games because he has less creature removal involved. But still, I imagine it's the best card in Bernal's deck, full stop, just to begin with. And in this matchup in particular, I think it's critical.
Ball's going to keep. Bernal's going to go down to 6.
I believe this is Bernal's 6th mulligan of the match.
Couple of those. Newsletter. Couple of mulligans. He'll be taking a look at 6 cards here in just a moment. We'll take a moment here. Talk about the StarCityGames.com newsletter. Is your source for the Magic Gathering news. I'm sure I'll be penning a little something about the finals of this tournament for the introduction, but there's more in that newsletter that you can sign up for free.
Yeah, all the going-ons for Magic the Gathering and Star City Games specifically. The latest on the SCG Tour with a selected SCG Tour match of the week to watch. You can get exclusive deck lists and advice from many of your favorite columnists. Catch up on all the recent events results, an exclusive cardboard crack comic, and best of all, signing up is free over at go.starcitygames.com/newsletter.
See if Bernal is able to find 6 cards that he is happy enough with here in just a moment. Again, Baugh has kept 7. And of course, there is always this underlying thing for one viewer who is certainly interested in what's going on. That is Todd Anderson. We know who he's rooting for.
Yeah, a lot of skin in this. To catch you up, for those of you who may have missed the pregame show, Jacob Baugh, Jim Davis, they win this whole thing. They get that invite, and the slot passes down to Todd Anderson. If any of the other 6 competitors win this thing, they're going to the Players' Championship in Roanoke in 2 weeks, and Todd Anderson has to watch from home, which is, unfortunately for him, very close to where the tournament will be held.
5 minutes away from the game center.
Perhaps he will walk there and watch or tune in the coverage, whatever. But
17th place at the Invitational for Todd.
Brutal.
Yep.
Brutal.
Absolutely brutal.
He can console himself with the results of the Alabama-Florida game, at least. He does get to come away with that.
Similarly brutal.
Yep.
Joe will keep. He will scry, and here we go. A forest and a tune with ether. 2 energy here for Jacob. We'll see what land he wants to search up.
We talked about it a lot yesterday on the broadcast with Todd getting off to that bad start day 1 in Standard, that the tiebreakers could come into play. It was likely to be a thing. And then, 17th place really hammers that home.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Every match matters. But as we saw in 2014, when Dylan Donegan won and beat Danny Jessup in the finals, he brought Steve Mann along with him, and Todd has 2 shots at that. We'll see if Jacob will be the one who can do it. And I'm sure Jacob would like to just win the Invitational because he'd like to win the Invitational.
$10,000 like this on the card and spot at the Pro Tour. Yeah, I mean, he's playing for something besides Todd's good graces or whatever.
That's for sure. Transgress the mind here from Joe Bernal. The hand of a tireless tracker and a Hiri the Harbinger. We've got Nishkana, a Kozilek's Return, a Harness Lightning, and a Mountain. So pretty good hand here for Jacob.
And this represents, Baugh has brought in the tireless trackers. He doesn't fear Bernal's spot removal, anticipates a lot of it being boarded out, and I think he probably just feels like he needs to play something closer to a normal game of Magic because Bernal is loading up on so much discard. It's very hard for him to just do the Aetherworks Marvel thing in the face of so much discard and disenchant effects.
Looks like he's going to take care of the tracker. Not a bad place to start there with the Transgress. Baugh going to search up a Plains. One thing to note about Baugh's deck list, for those of you who like what he is working with this weekend, not really hard to get that 3rd color into the deck.
No, it's a low cost. May mess around with some of the dual lands you're willing to play a little bit, but because you have Aether Hub, you're already kind of close to being able to do it anyway. You're already close to playing Evolving Wilds anyway, so you have 2 kind of freebies that are already tilting you in that direction, and then the upside of the white cards, particularly Nahiri, just cements the whole thing.
Is it going to be a tireless tracker here for Joe?
He can. Remember, he knows about the harness.
Might be Liliana. Joe's got to think this one through.
Well, it's tough to cast a threat into the face-up removal spell that your opponent can use and then use some of their mana, and then your opponent untaps and plays a Planeswalker on an empty board. That's a rough setup there. So even though Liliana isn't doing anything right now, I think Bernal is correct in not firing the Tireless Tracker in there.
He will just go with Liliana, the last hope. Plus it and pass over to Baugh.
I know this looks bad, but I think the alternative is much worse.
Baugh will play a forest. Here comes Nahiri. So now we got a little bit of a Planeswalker battle. And I'm going to discard a Kozilek's Return. Good place to have that card. Pass the turn back. Nahiri is just such a great element for this deck if you can get it on a stable board or a board where it can't be really attacked, because we can't forget about the fact that Nahiri, does that ultimate thing that brings Emrakul or something else to the table. That's very real.
Yeah, Nahiri's got it's the same sort of deal as the Plains. It's almost good enough for a variety of isolated reasons, and put it all together, and it can be great in this deck.
Can even buy you a little bit of time if you're being beaten down. Now we go back to Bernal. We can't forget as well, Nahiri can search for an artifact. Not that this deck plays any artifacts, but...
No.
If it did.
If it did, and if you happen to be playing against a deck with a lot of discard, but no counter spells, maybe that comes up. I don't know.
Perhaps. Perhaps. Tough to say. Looks like Joe's going to send... he is unsure. He might be going up. Okay. All right, a couple of 2-drops here in Grimflayer and Sylvan Advocate. Pass the turn back. Update here for you as Jacob Ball's going to untap. Adam Snook wins game number 3 over Chris Anderson. It's 2-1 in favor of the black-green aggro player.
And that was one of the 2 matches coming in I thought was going to be very tight. I did pick Anderson to get it, but not at a high confidence level.
Up to 8 goes Nahiri. Discard a Chandra. And now Ishkana. 3 spiders on the way, and this is exactly how Jacob Ball wants to play. That Nahiri is now defended very well.
And the Nahiri got him to Delirium also. Mwah! So well-built deck.
That's how you build it up in the hotel room.
And now he's got a Nahiri at 8.
You found it.
It's just...
You found all of it. I am proud of you.
The puzzle pieces all interlocking together.
They do. Mind Rack Demon. Top 4 cards to go over. Grimflayer, Ishkana, Traverse Liliana, Sorcery Creature, Planeswalker. We'll give him Joe 3 of 4. See how Joe wants to use Liliana here in just a moment.
I mean, I suppose going up makes sense unless you're doing something with the card this turn. It makes a lot more sense to be moving up. I still don't think moving up gets him in a position to attack this turn, but unless he wants to go down this turn and then down the following turn, I think it makes more sense just to go up.
Do want to apologize for the Adam Snook fans out there, of which I know there are many. We Steve Harvey'd here in the booth. Chris Anderson is actually up 2-1. Our apologies. Back to Baugh. What to do when the world is your oyster. He still has that Harness Lightning that he has never used.
And that he can go all the way up to 5 with that. So anything that Bernal has right now can be killed.
He can maybe start to try to work Liliana down if he feels that's a priority.
I think the waiting game right now looks so good for Baugh that I'm not really in a rush. Not like though Liliana's up to very much right now anyway. I think with the pacing of this game, I'm trying to see if I can get Nahiri up, then ultimate, then go back up. Because it looks like the game might go on for a while here.
Which favors Jacob.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, he has a Nahiri and a more powerful deck. and because Bernal is, all of his answers are basically preemptive, it's discard. Baugh keeping the Nahiri into play means that he's looking at 2 cards a turn if he wants to, and Bernal doesn't effectively interact with the top of the deck. Now there's other questions too, like, is the Ulamog in the deck? And
all that good stuff, yeah.
Yep. A lot of considerations here.
Some questions that we don't have answers to, only Jacob does, and that's why he is taking his time through this turn. Looks like he wants to go to 10-2.
Yep. It doesn't look like Bernal's going to be in a position to make a productive attack next turn. Your Nahiri's at risk, not at risk. And even if your Nahiri gets hit, it's not going to die. You're gonna,
loyalty.
It's pretty well cushioned here. So you can try to set this game up for ultimate if you have some haymaker to go get, and then re-up and start that again if that's not enough to knock Bernal out of the game.
Well, Baugh says, you know what? I'll plus and I'll pass.
Yep. If he has something good and proactive to do, that's fine. But I think the waiting game right now is really good for Baugh.
And again, remember, we know he's got that Harness Lightning in hand. He can go up to 5 energy. He can finish something off. He doesn't have to worry about a card like Blossoming Defense from Joe Bernal. He knows that players have access to each other's deck list. For now, we're going to see Liliana go up to 7. Now, 7 is the ultimate for Liliana. That could be a thing.
Yeah, that's the pressure in the other direction is that Baugh does not want Bernal to go ultimate with Liliana while there's a staring contest. So there is some pressure for him to move a little bit here.
But we can't undersell the fact that Baugh still does have that Kozilek's Return in the graveyard.
Yeah.
That could work on cleanup duty. For Bernal, he's got quite a maze to navigate through here. This does not look easy.
Yeah, he's in this weird squeeze of sitting and waiting is not great, nor is doing something proactive right now.
Attacking is certainly not great. It's funny, we analyzed this matchup during the pregame, and we feel it's going to be kind of a runaway here for Baugh. It's proven to be a lot closer than that, though I think Jacob has the advantage in this game, but these games aren't going to be played quickly.
No.
There is a lot of decisions to make on both sides, and there's a lot on the line here for both players.
Well, when it settles in, it can look like this. There are going to be games where Bernal gets a good aggressive start. Maybe he has a transgress to pick off a key card, and Baugh can't put any gloves up. There's going to be some games where Baugh just has it on 4, and Bernal can't interact. Once you get rid of those kind of edge case games, well, now we're playing Magic, and these games look pretty complicated.
Mind Rack Demon turns over a bunch of cards. You saw Joe's life total went from 20 to 16 because of the Mind Rack Demon trigger at the beginning of upkeep, but now he has Delirium.
Yep.
That Evolving Wilds took care of that finally. He had Creature, Sorcery, Planeswalker for a little while. Now he's got land. That's 4 types. Life is good for Joe. 2, 4, 5 flyers. Sylvan Advocate with 5 lands. 6 land could be on the way next turn. And then Grimflare, that's also a 4/4. Can't forget that Liliana also ticked up and is threatening her ultimate. I'm not sure it's the best case scenario for Joe, but it's not a bad one.
Well, the issue is just, again, that especially as you mentioned with the Kozilek's Return in the graveyard, knowing that Baugh has a removal spell, attacking is not great, and sitting back is not great. It's hard for Bernal to thread this needle.
Well, I don't love playing a waiting game against the Emrakul deck either.
Yeah, but what's Bernal going to do? What does an Alpha Strike look like this turn?
Yeah,
it's nothing. He's got to just. This is bad, but there's not an alternative path.
Harness Lightning will take care of 1 Mind Rack Demon. Baugh will draw. Looks like he picked up a copy of Game Trail. And now, how does Jacob want to take his turn here?
Also, Baugh is just getting closer and closer to natural Emrakul too. He doesn't have to cheat it.
Harness Lightning on the Sylvan Advocate. What do we have here? I feel like this is him wanting to pressure this Liliana.
Yep.
With whatever he's searching for. I mean, Emrakul cleans it up, right? It's got Trample. Yeah. It's not casting it, with Nahiri. Just placing it on the battlefield, giving haste, and then back to the grip. And as you mentioned, that means we could be talking about recasting it.
Yep.
But I think your line of play and the one that Jacob took as well is pretty smart. Things were going so well for him, he wasn't underneath any pressure. I mean, he's still 20 and all that good stuff, that having Nahiri still be on the battlefield is a real bonus.
Yep. I like the waiting game here. The waiting game is so good for Baugh for a number of reasons. Having a Nahiri is definitely part of that. But also just the decks themselves. It lends itself to Baugh wanting to play the waiting game.
It's also just worth noting what allows him to play the waiting game here. One card, Ishkana.
Yep.
That's what lets it happen.
And now Bernal knows that Emrakul is now in hand.
Is that bad?
Could be.
Could be not good. Not a lot of fun to play against.
I don't know. What is fun anyway?
Zero sum.
It's hard to. Baugh's probably having fun.
He's probably having a blast. Yeah.
He had fun last turn, and right now, as Bernal is working his way through how to win this game, he's probably having fun. Baugh is imagining what the next turn is going to look like.
It's true.
And if there happens to be one, the turn after that.
That's true.
And maybe the turn after that. Probably not a turn after that, but maybe a turn.
There
after
might
that.
not be another turn. Yeah.
Right.
All tied up, you said? All right, Adam Snook fans, we misreported the last game, but we're going to get this one right. 2-2. Going to game 5 between Chris Anderson and Adam Snook. Time to untap and draw. Ishkana. Nahiri going up. Discard Emrakul. Draw a card.
So I think, is Baugh a card type short with land number 7? I think he's got creature, land, instant, sorcery, planeswalker.
I believe that's correct.
So he's missing an enchantment.
Mm-hmm. We've not seen Vessel of Nascency this game at all.
But again, not like there's a big rush here from Baugh.
No, not at all.
Take it nice and slow.
Yep. There's Chandra.
Yeah, sure.
That's a Planeswalker party. The thing is, in this game, and probably in this matchup, he's just the control deck.
Yes. I don't mind getting rid of the Tireless Tracker. It's not like Bernal can, if he's just drawing one card a turn, I mean, what's...
Yeah, terribly scared.
Yeah. I mean, Baugh's got so much card advantage here, so much inevitability. And Bernal is playing with his green-black Terminate deck over there.
Well, he took care of the Tireless Tracker. He wants to put Joe to one card per turn, so Joe will draw his one card this turn. It's a green-black Terminate strategy.
Yeah. I've played it myself.
Yeah.
Because you already have these sweet green creatures, and then if you kill their best creatures, then what are they even supposed to do? Terror plus Crawlworm? I mean,
tried and true strategy.
just, what are we talking about here? It was soft to control Magic.
You say that as though it happened a lot to you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hissing Quagmire, Sylvan Advocate, that's a 5/6, and a passing the turn over to Jacob Baugh. Baugh will draw.
That was the card that was almost caused me to quit Magic when I first started playing.
Control Magic?
Yes. And for not a reason I could intellectualize as a kid, but for, as it turns out, a good game design principle. It teaches you to cut all the sweet creatures from your deck.
Oof.
Like, Shivan Dragon was $15. I spent a $15 on a Shivan Dragon. And all that ever happened was reinforcement that it was wrong to play it.
It just killed you a lot.
Yeah, Mana Drain also taught a similar lesson. But the thing is, there's, you know, rarity matters also early on in people's lives as gamers, like, yes, Mana Drain is also very good, but no one owned a Mana Drain in my school.
Okay.
But a lot of people owned Control Magics. Even 14-year-olds, when Magic was a very new game, were able to figure out that card was good.
Oh yeah. You have a creature? I'd
Yeah.
like to use that. They've dialed back that effect quite a bit.
And these are for all the reasons I'm explaining right now. This is why.
Baugh did activate Nahiri. It's up to 6 counters now. And Evolving Wilds is in place in the graveyard. He's drawn a new card. Now he's trying to figure out how he wants to use Chandra. Looks like we're going to plus. Perhaps for some manas.
A bad sign. A bad sign for Bernal. I've got 7 lands in play, and I've been looting a bunch, and I need more mana.
I think we know what for. It's Emrakul, the Promised End.
Different story every time.
It sure is. Sure is.
Bernal's going over Chapter 1 in his head right now.
Is Chapter 1 my creatures are dead?
All my creatures are dead.
Yeah.
Chapter 2, I'm dead.
Okay. Short book.
It's a short story.
Short book. I think Jacob's trying to figure out if he can do any attacking this turn.
Nah, I think blocking's going to be better.
Grasp of Darkness, the draw.
Okay, well that makes it pretty easy.
Gonna use this to kill the Grim Flayer. Gonna fire up the Hissing Quagmire. Yeah. I respect it.
Get your hands off my cards.
Yep. No more.
I'm dead. Don't touch my cards.
No more. All my stuff is dead. Please stop. Jacob Baugh going to win game number 3 here over Joe Bernal. Night Aetherworks, Black Green Delirium. They're going to go to game number 4 with Baugh up 2-1. That's how Jacob wants it to go.
Yep.
We know that. Bernal's start was okay. Discard spell, but a little slow to the ground. You know, for me, if I have the option between Transgress on 2 or Creature on 2, I think Joe's just got to get started with the creatures.
Yeah, especially the games where Joe's on the play. The ideal draw is not Transgress on 2. It's Grim Flayer on 2, Tracker on 3, then a discard spell. Then you got something going. You got Suppressor, strip out the best card. But you can see Baugh's ready to play kind of a normal game of Magic, try to take some of the sting out of those discard spells. And when Bernal got off to a slow start there, Baugh just had him beat on the battlefield. Forget about Emrakul, forget about the top end of Nahiri. Just he had total control of the game just with creatures and planeswalkers.
Ishkana stabilized things, and from there, Joe just couldn't get through. But that's really what Ishkana does. So you can see the sideboards there on the screen. Don't think a lot will change, though these players are going back to the drawing board a bit. And while they do that, we're going to talk about our Season 2 Invitational champion back in New Jersey. That's Liam Lonergan. He's got a beautiful Elf Warrior token here for his Invitational win. Also got to play in Pro Tour Kaladesh. We'll see him at the Players' Championship in 2 weeks. $10,000 richer for the young man, too. Now, if you like this Elf Warrior token, and many people do, there's a couple ways to go about getting it.
Well, anyone who participated in an Open or Classic received this token when they signed up. Unfortunately, we're out of that for this year. So for now, any order from StarCityGames.com, $5 or greater, will be shipped with this token for free. Again, we're about to have an Invitational champion. A little bit later on this afternoon, we'll be creating a new token that will then be given out to the Open and Classic participants. So if you want to get the Liam Lonergan Elf Warrior token, place an order from StarCityGames.com, $5 or greater, as soon as you can.
Congratulations to our New Jersey Invitational champion, Liam Lonergan. We're looking forward to seeing him at the Players' Championship. And we're going to see Jacob Baugh. The question is, are we going to see Joe Bernal? Don't know. Don't know. He's certainly got an uphill climb here, that's for sure.
Unfortunate for Bernal here. He drew sort of the short straw here in terms of matchups in the top 8. But that said, not a whole lot of good-looking matchups for him.
No.
I think the green-black aggro deck and Jim Davis's blue-white flash deck, very good matchups for Bernal. I think those are great pairings for him. Unfortunately, the rest of it is just Aetherworks Marvel, and I think Bernal was hoping to fade that matchup a little bit this weekend.
For Joe, again, got to start with some creatures on turn number 2 here. We saw the recipe with Grim Flayer as selection and aggression. Maybe an Tireless Tracker, and then maybe we see a discard spell on turn 4 or turn 5. Take a Marvel or an Ishkana and move forward that way. We know he's still got a little bit of removal in his deck, not much, but but he can't get it all out. And there will be moments where Grasp of Darkness does look pretty good.
Yep. It's not a total 0. And especially with Baugh citing in tireless trackers, that's, you know, a little bit of incentive for Bernal to keep him honest. But they are not star players in this matchup.
No, not at all.
They have moments of being good, and if Bernal has a good draw with a lot of pressure, that can be the last piece of the puzzle to kill Baugh before he overpowers him. But drawing the removal spells in the opening hand is pretty painful.
Again, our backup match, which I don't think we'll have time to jump to, unfortunately. Chris Anderson, Adam Snook. They're in game 5. They are in game number 5. That is Teamer Aetherworks against Black-Green Aggro. Yes, not Delirium, Aggro. You can take a look at all the deck lists over on our coverage page at StarCityGames.com. Find a standard deck that looks pretty unique to you. And I will say, you know, coming into this weekend, expected to see a lot of White Blue Flash and Black-Green Delirium. Not really the out
Well, not at the top 8. I mean, over the Swiss rounds that we covered at least, we saw a lot of Black-Green Delirium, very little of White-Blue Flash, kind of generally underrepresented. But the top 8 has painted a different picture. And we don't, you know, it's tough in these multi-format constructed tournaments where we have the top 8 that's one format. It can be a little misleading at times because a lot of these players with Aetherworks in the top 8 did the lion's share of their work in Modern, not necessarily Standard. So it's complicated to pull information out of this. It's helpful to watch the games.
Well, Jacob Baugh is ready. Joe Bernal will be here in just a moment, too. And game number 4 will be underway. We'll see if Joe's able to keep 7 and put some pressure on his opponent. We have our final announcement for our backup match. Adam Snook wins that match over Chris Anderson 3-2. Congratulations to Adam.
Based on the time at which we heard, all right, it's tied 2-2, to, all right, Adam Snook won the match. That was not a lot of time.
Beatdowns.
It was real. It was like a 7 or 8 minute gap of time there.
It's Beatdown City. Snook's story from this tournament a little bit interesting. He wasn't even sure he was going to come, but he had a free place to stay with Jason Ford, player who lives in the Atlanta area, and he said, hey, might as well. Zoom in, please. And so he decided to come, and he has obviously made the best of it.
Yes. Now in the top 4.
Yeah. Going to play the winner of this match.
A little bit richer. A little bit closer to maybe getting to the Players' Championship.
And Bernal, he traversed. Jacob used Attune with Ether. Jacob has 2 energy, obviously important to his deck. And now we go over to Joe. Joe will draw a Swamp and a Transgress. Obviously not a bad starting play, but again, not a creature. As you see, Jacob Baugh's hand of Worldbreaker, Nahiri, Ishkana, Vessel, Servant of the Conduit, a Plains, and a Mountain.
I mean, this is a very nice hand here for Baugh, as he's got action in the short term, medium term, and long term. And those are the type of hands that are pretty challenging to pick apart with Transgress.
Going to take care of Nahiri. It was a powerful one in the previous game. Jacob going to help out his friend Joe here a little bit. Make sure he knows all the contents of his hand. And now he will pick up all those cards. He'll untap and he'll take a draw step. Didn't get a great look.
Oh, Tireless Tracker, which is a great draw.
That's really good too.
I mean, that sets him up for a really good third turn here. And the Transgress on the Nahiri, I think, was in large part of trying to prevent Baugh from having a good third turn.
Joe does have a copy of Pick the Brain in hand, but he's going to go to his own tracker, and now we're going to go back over to Jacob. Let's see if he wants to go towards that tracker or not. Tracker plus land obviously yields a clue.
Yep. I remember Baugh showed a hand with a very nice top end there with World Breaker alongside Ishkana. So there's a lot of pressure on Bernal to either find more discard spells or get the game over with. He was trying to set that up by kind of taking Baugh out of turn number 3, but Baugh had it set up anyway.
Kozilek's return is interesting there.
It is. I would imagine Baugh did that Kozilek's return for 2 reasons.
Okay.
One is it's a path for him to get to Delirium for the Ishkana, and also he's got a hand that works well going up to the top end. If he slows the game down a little bit, he's got some breathing space for his Ishkana and his World Breaker.
Okay, here's Sylvan Advocate.
Also, with Tireless Tracker in hand, the Kozilek's return is already a little awkward. It takes some finagling for Baugh to set that up. In the meantime, had he not cast it, Bernal gets an opportunity to make a land drop, get the Tireless Tracker to 3 toughness, and now the Kozilek's return isn't even an answer. A little unorthodox, but
you can find some rationale there.
Yes.
There's Vessel. Chandra, Hub, Nahiri, Vessel.
Given how mana hungry his hand is, Aether Hub seems really attractive to me. But it also depends on what he's drawn in the intervening turns here.
Hub is the selection. A little more energy. And now we just pass the turn back over to Bernal. Bernal will untap. He'll draw. He's got that Sylvan Advocate that's ready to attack. We might see him pick the brain here. No Delirium just yet for Joe, however. But here is pick the brain. Pick is going to take Ishkana. And that card is exiled.
But the leftovers here are not bad for Bernal. He gets to play Tireless Tracker, make a land drop, and sack the clue.
Yep.
It's nice. It's a nice turn.
We'll go over to Jacob. He'll pick up a card. Make another copy of Kozilek's return. Tracker is here. And in just a moment, a clue will appear. And we'll pass the turn back over to Joe with the ability for the tracker to grow and yield Jacob a card. There's Grasp. Delirium online now. An instant sorcerer creature. Oh, I might be wrong. No, I'm wrong.
Sorcery creature instant.
Yep, nope.
Yeah, he's a little short still.
Yep. Take it all back. Baugh will sacrifice the clue.
Bernal's list not as good as some of the more traditional builds of Black-Green Delirium at getting there. Part of the reason that Bernal is playing with 3 copies of Evolving Wilds, usually you see either 1 or 0. I think it's a concession to trying to get to Delirium a little more reliably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Joe's wondering about the World Breaker. And Jacob says, yeah, I still have that. In case you want to know what it does, how much it cost. Yeah, looking at the text. Yeah, these two are pretty good friends, right from the same area in the Chicago area, so. Keeping it somewhat casual in a very competitive match. A tune here from Jacob will get him up to 6 energy. He's going to find him another land.
And that's a win there for Baugh, getting to 6 energy. Now Aetherworks Marvel off the top is a huge draw at any point, and Bernal really doesn't interact with it. I think Bernal may have not brought in the Disenchants. It's the sense I'm getting at this point.
They just seem bad.
I think he's kept in some removal and is going with the discard plan.
Jacob going to play a game trail, reveal the land he found off of a tune. And he's going to pass the turn back over to Bernal. Bernal going to untap. He's got 5 lands. Land number 6 would be okay. Found a tracker instead. Now he's in this kind of weird, it actually would be land number 5, so excuse me. He's in this weird spot where Sure, he'd like to play more stuff, but Kozilek's Return is a real concern.
Yep.
He'll play Pick the Brain. I got to imagine he's taking World Breaker. Yep. It's that or the Kozilek's Return. Yep. And a mountain over there. Like you said, a lot of big draws here for Jacob.
Yep. I mean, Bernal's kind of doing his thing. It's just with less pressure than he would like.
Mountain pass. I think maybe another Kozilek's Return. Didn't get a great look at that draw stuff.
I don't know if I'm a fan there of playing the land with Tireless Tracker in the deck.
Sure.
Because Baugh just needs some gas at this point.
Yeah. Looks like Advocate might be coming across. Maybe. All right, in for 2. Bernal. Was thinking Tracker. Now, yeah, he's going to go to Tracker here.
And he knows about the Kozilek's Return. But he also can't really do nothing.
He doesn't want to play Flare because he wants Flare to be a 4/4.
Exactly. Same consideration.
Yeah. Ball will draw. He'll pass. Bernal will draw. Mind Rack Demon. Okay.
That's nice.
I've seen worse.
Good shot, Delirium. Some pressure.
Two. Looks like a removal spell here. Harness Lightning. And now here's Mind Rack Demon.
And that is Delirium.
Yeah, of course. 2 mana. Servant, not great. Okay, we're getting a little interesting here.
I mean, that Baugh needs to find a thing.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of things to find, but he's got to find one of them.
Yep. He definitely has a lot of things to find.
A lot of very good draws.
Yeah. But this Mind Rack Demon could kill Baugh over the course of 3 turns.
But Bernal also has to be very scared about the Kozilek's Return coming out of the graveyard, too. Because his creatures are not well sized to survive.
Emrakul is the main one that brings it back. Aetherworks Marvel could help do the same. The World Breaker's gone.
But then there's the question of, am I even beating Emrakul in this spot anyway?
Of course, which I'm not convinced Joe is.
Yeah. He needs to be a little bit wider than this to have a good shot.
Much like what we saw in the second game.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Mind Rack Demon in for 4. Follow-up. Grasp.
That thing's dead.
Yeah.
Joe's ready for that fight.
And Advocate. Draw. He's tapping some manas. He's found...
Okay.
Nissa Vital Force. Make a 5/5. Another reason I kind of wish I had the land in the hand.
Yeah.
Interesting. Did not expect to see this to come in. I can certainly see spots where this thing is awesome, though.
Yep.
Return target permanent card from your graveyard. Doesn't have a lot of great stuff in his graveyard to return. Huh. The 5/5 does a nice job of checking the Advocate.
Yeah, I mean,
for obvious reasons.
The return a permanent mode is a little odd here because so much of Bernal's discard is exiling.
And I believe there might be a Chandra down in Jacob's graveyard. There might also be some Planeswalkers too, some Nahiris too.
But Chandra's not a great answer to Mind Rack.
No, it's terrible.
So, and he can't cast it this turn anyway.
Yeah.
So, although this is at least a decision that Bernal has to make. He can ignore the Nissa and try to kill in 2 turns with the Mind Rack Demon, but you're potentially giving Baugh both the ability to take something out of his graveyard or the ability to just draw a card next turn, and Baugh has so many high leverage draws.
Well, I'm pretty sure there's a Nahiri in the graveyard right now for Jacob.
Right.
And if there is, obviously that takes care of the Mind Rack Demon after it attacks. So this is a bit of a weird one here, and that's why it's giving Joe some pause and his hands are on his head. All right, Mind Rack Demon's going to go after Jacob. And Knuckleheads, pass.
Yeah, just trying to go wide here.
Okay. Cozy's return, which, yeah, I think he's got Liam. Doesn't kill anything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good look.
Well, Emrakul can make this easy. That's a land.
Well, he's still got a redraw, right? You can emblem play a land?
I guess not. Maybe he didn't draw a land. I'm not entirely sure, but he's conceding this game.
I thought he peeled a game trail. But
okay.
Perhaps I saw it wrong.
Yeah, either way, it's 2-2 here between these players as Naya Aetherworks and Black Green Delirium are getting ready here for game number 5. Did not expect this.
Well, this is the benefit of picking up game number 2. You get to make the post-board games a little bit more manageable. Bernal got to pick up the post-board game where he was on the play. That's a recipe. Now you just need you're going to need some breaks to win this matchup on the draw here. But Bernal's at least put himself in a position to give himself a real shot.
I'm surprised, but like you said, he's given himself a shot. He's given himself a shot to get this job done. Okay, we're on the play here for game number 5 here, Jacob Baugh. Are you changing anything given what you've seen? I think you expected discard spells.
Yeah, you've basically have seen what you can expect to see. I wouldn't mess around with too much. It looks like Baugh has gotten away from some of the more dedicated combo elements of the deck, things like attune with, some of the energy generating stuff. I think he's gotten away from some extent, like the Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, trying to play a straight up game. I don't think a whole lot changes on play versus draw once you've made that kind of call.
And for Joe, it's just still going to be the discard. I don't think he can bring in the artifacts with any sort of confidence.
No, or
the artifact removal.
Right, and Baugh looks like he's really de-emphasized Aetherworks Marvel as a game plan anyway. So no reason to try to fight that, especially since the discard spells you're already bringing in naturally do some work there.
Well, those are the options there for both players. They're going to shuffle up, get ready for their final game here. Winner of this match is going to play against Adam Snook in our first semifinal match, so we'll be excited to watch that one. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about the StarCityGames.com YouTube page where you can watch the replays of this tournament and a bunch more.
A lot going on. You can subscribe today over at youtube.com/StarCityGames. A lot of video archives, including the split-second video series, Versus series, and Commander Versus videos, Magic Online playtesting, Best of SCG Live, and much more. Again, you can subscribe today over at youtube.com/StarCityGames. Become one of over 100,000 subscribers. Get notified when new content is uploaded to the page.
I want to thank everyone for being a subscriber of our page. We're going to have some cool new content coming down the pipeline here, especially over the Christmas holiday season, including a little mini Masters versus. Pretty excited about that. I think we're going to have Todd Anderson square off against Justin Parnell.
Still not totally clear on the rules, but it is exciting to get some of the people who focus on more competitive content versus the people who focus more on some of the casual content go head to head, because there's some beef there.
I guess
it's low key. They're all friends, but those videos are going to be heated.
I guess you're just going to have to watch them.
Yeah, I will.
What do you think about that? Crack some packs, play a little mini Masters. Fun thing about this too is we get to crack some old packs that people are not familiar with. Little Odyssey.
I know Odyssey pretty well.
I know you do. Tempest. Bunch of old stuff.
Tempest I was not playing draft at that point.
Maybe we'll crack some packs maybe for mini Masters that have banding involved.
Oh.
One of your favorite mechanics.
Oof.
Flanking.
A doozy. Flanking's
phasing.
Phasing is flanking and phasing. They're not great mechanics gameplay wise, but they're relatively simple in their functionality. Banding, nobody knows.
No one knows how it works.
Nobody knows.
No. Just too hard to figure out.
I was surprised that we've never had a report, because people do some kind of trolly stuff.
Do they?
Someone playing in one of our legacy events with just a banding-oriented deck.
Ooh, that'd be
and
nice.
just sort of try to get people to see if they know the rules. Just get them to play a banding game.
Well, the problem is it's difficult to know the rules because no one knows how banding works.
No one knows.
So.
I basically know.
But not with anything resembling confidence.
I think that if you gave me a board state where there were banders attacking or blocking and asked me how things worked or who could declare what, I think I could still do it.
Okay. I'm impressed. I'm impressed by that.
It's just a function of growing up at the right place and time. You hang around. If you were hanging around, Eugene Harvey in 1994, you would know the banding rules too. I just got lucky.
Just got used to it.
Yeah. How many non-banders can you have in a banding attack?
How many
Banders can you have in a banding attack?
One.
One is correct. How many non-banders can you have in a banding block?
How many non-banders can you have in a
banding block?
I'm going to go with one again.
Infinite. The answer is infinity.
Okay. Yeah. Totally makes sense.
So that's step one of the rules. We'll go into more later.
Infinite doesn't. Sure. Just never mind.
Right.
Doesn't make any sense, but sure. Both players are going to take a look at some opening hands here. Looks like they're going to keep, and we are underway for game number 5.
Mesa Pegasus can attack in a band with the Hive token, but Mesa Pegasus can block with any number of the Hive tokens.
Yes, any number of bees.
Yeah.
And Evolving Wilds here from Jacob Baugh. Going to search up a Plains to start things off. Joe, also with an Evolving Wilds. We'll see what he has to do on his second turn here in just a bit. But for now, we go back over to Jacob for his second turn. And we'll see how he wants to get things started. I wouldn't do it with Servitor Conduit because that's going to die.
I'm a little curious there with game number 4. I think Baugh has to show a little bit more caution with the order in which he plays his lands and if he's playing them at all because of Tireless Tracker. I think that's a big consideration here.
Vessel of Nascency, pass the turn back over to Bernal. He'll sacrifice his Evolving Wilds. It's a forest or a swamp. And as Joe checks his hand, it is a forest.
So we have seen a little bit of the opportunity cost of the Plains. It has not been totally free. There's been spots where he has been unable to cast Chandra because he's lacked double red. And there's also been some spots where he hasn't been able to play multiple green cards in the same turn and this is all while the Plains has been in play.
Yep.
So not totally free. And you're definitely going to feel it more in the matchups where you're under some degree of pressure.
Grim Flare. Best way to start. Baugh will draw. He's got a mountain in hand, and he just drew a Harness Lightning. Maybe he needed it, maybe he didn't, but he's got it now. I'm not letting that Grim Flare touch me.
No way.
You can forget about that. Here's a tune. 2 energy. Basic mountain. And Joe's saying, is my Grim Flare dead? And I think Jacob said, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's dead. Bang. Harness Lightning will take care of it. It'll net Jacob 1 energy. But that 2-2 that was so good in game number 2 is off the battlefield for right now. We go back over to Joe Bernal. Mind Rack Demon, but more importantly, Transgress the Mind. Kozak's Return, Emrakul, Harness Lightning, a Mountain. So not a lot going on.
Nope. Oh, keep in mind he does have the Vessel.
Yes, of course.
And the Vessel, especially powerful for Baugh here with this hand, because he has another removal spell on Harness, and because the Vessel can yield Planeswalkers, all of which are 4 mana, and he has the mana 4. There's not a whole lot going on with this hand, but that could change very quickly.
More importantly, Jacob Baugh not underneath very much pressure
Yep.
at this stage of things.
Battlefield is clean, and the places in the matchups where we've seen Baugh struggle a little bit, having ball spots where this kind of stuff is happening and he's getting attacked. If the game really slows down and things settle in and light tolls are high and we're playing off the top of the deck, Baugh has a huge advantage in those games. He can generate combo kills, and I think he even plays just sort of a natural game on the battlefield a little bit better as well. So Bernal picking up some of the sideboard cards here, but this is not the recipe he wants just yet. Now, if he can follow up with, you know, a land this turn and a Mind Rack Demon next turn, and Baugh misses on the Vessel, then we could be talking.
Emrakul down. See you later. Ooh, no third land for Joe.
Really bad news.
Yes, it is.
Because now any of those Planeswalkers are just absurd if he happens to find them.
He drew Nissa.
With the caveat that he has to be able to cast them. I was only thinking about Chandra and Nahiri.
Yep.
That's my fault.
That is on you. Yeah, we know. Traverse. Land, creature, sorcery. One away from Delirium right now.
I bet Bernal's ratio of traverse the Ovenwald for a land versus traverse the Ovenwald for a creature in this tournament has been a lot lower than many of other competitors who did not have the same level of success.
Yeah. I like Traverse as a card a lot. Pretty good card.
It's a sweet Delirium design.
Take a look here. The Forest, Nahiri's, and a Traverse. I wonder how safe Jacob thinks it is to just say, you know what, give me a Forest, let me go to Nissa, and let's do this thing. Because he needs a second green to be able to cast it.
Yep.
But Nahiri is also pretty appealing.
And it's also a function of the game state, too. I mean, he can get to Nissa whenever he wants to. He's under no pressure. He's got a removal spell left over. So I know that there's this, all right, I'll take the Forest here, I'll cast the Nissa, I can still get the Planeswalker back. No, like, get more value than that. You can be very patient here.
I just drew Chandra, too, so it's a Planeswalker party now. Good place to start. Gonna plus, I think, discard Kozilek's Return. Yep.
Yep, not doing anything and does something in the graveyard to boot.
Drew a Game Trail. Yep.
Yeah, and this is why I like the discipline here. When you have Nahiri going anyway, you're going to find double green in land number 5 anyway. And there's no reason in a game this slow to give up value. Just
Evolving Wilds here from Joe. There's Tracker. And 2 clues is cool. I'm not sure he's going to have time to use them both. We'll see. And there's a Swamp.
And unfortunately, I think in this game it's just going to take. It took Bernal too long to get something on the battlefield going, and Baugh's got the engine going. Next turn, he has the ability to play Chandra and shoot down the Tireless Tracker if he's feeling so inclined. Maybe do something else. And here he goes up again, and then Bernal is empty board, can't kill a Planeswalker except by attacking, and facing down Nahiri ready to ultimate. That is asking a lot.
Vessel and Nascency the draw. We could also see Chandra come in plus add 2 red to cast Harness Lightning to take care of the Tracker. It's an option.
A lot of good routes.
Yeah,
for sure.
A lot of good routes.
If I'm Baugh right now, my instinct is just to clutch onto every card and play that sort of game. So I'd rather keep the Harness and use the Chandra as a removal spell. But your line of play also works. It gets you to the same spot.
Yeah, and I think actually, thinking about it a little bit more, is Baugh's going to play Attune, get a little bit more energy. I just want to save the Harness Lightning just for a Mind Rack Demon.
Harness is Terminate right now. Yep. He's got so much energy to work with. So. If I'm Baugh, my plan is just extract as much value out of every card as possible, which kind of lines up to what he did with that Vessel turns ago. He could have taken land number 5 for the Nissa and said, nah, we'll get to that later. I'm just going to take Nahiri and just beat Bernal with quality cards.
Here's another quality card in Chandra. Going to take care of Tireless Tracker. It's down to 1. Nahiri's up to 8. Now we're threatening Nahiri's ultimate, which could involve an Emrakul or an Ishkana, World Breaker, what have you.
And again, Bernal's sideboard plan here. He can interact with the hand with discard spells. He can interact with creatures with removal spells. Planeswalkers, it's combat. He's got to be ahead on the table.
Ready for a weird question?
Sure.
Is there any chance Jacob took out Marvel?
If I'm in Jacob's position, I'm probably down to cut
You know, you're going to leave Emrakul in the deck anyway as just like a late game option. I could see cutting 1 or 2 copies. I don't think I'd go to 0, but I think there's a chance Baugh might have done exactly that.
Mindwrack Demon going to turn over a couple of cards. Blooming Marsh will be the land that's in the battlefield tapped. We head back over to Jacob.
Even if Jacob's not on 4 Emrakuls, he's got enough high quality hits that and energy to spare that. Although maybe if he's getting away from Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, maybe he doesn't have enough energy to reliably do it. That is the card that lets you just keep going.
Yeah.
So maybe he went down to 0. My instinct, maybe go down to 1, maybe go down to 2.
I think it's possible we saw him maybe slide down a little bit and we just didn't really notice it. He's going to go up to 10 here with Nahiri.
I mean, they played a very long game 4, and that card did not show up. So, and we're playing he's looking at a lot of cards in game 5 too, and it has not shown up. So. You could be right, certainly.
Using Nahiri up to 10. Doesn't look like he discarded and drew anything. Just wanted to plus it. Now here is Nissa. It's a lot to overcome. Baugh. Gonna use the +1 to make this into a 5/5. Chandra will go up. Top card is a game trail, so Bernal's going to take 2. He's going to fall down to 18. Harness Lightning will take care of Mindwrack Demon.
If Baugh was going to do all of this, I would have preferred for Chandra plus to be the first order of business.
See what that's going to be.
Yep. I mean, he had a good turn rolled up regardless, but operations weren't the tightest there.
In for 5 with the Forest. And now for Joe Bernal, he's got to try to beat 3 active Planeswalkers. He's going to draw a card. Unless it's running Ruinous Paths, I don't know how Joe's going to be able to do this.
Well, he's also got to be able to beat a Nahiri Ultimate next turn.
Yeah, there's that too.
There's a lot of different stuff to beat out here.
But he will play on. He'll start by sacrificing one of those clues. Bernal will draw. That's a murder. That's not going to do it. Jacob Baugh going to win this match over Joe Bernal 3-2. Nye Aetherworks will take care of Black Green Delirium, and we thought it might be a little bit easier there for Baugh, but Bernal is one heck of a player. He made him earn it, but Baugh's moving on.